Hello, welcome to Module 1 and your lesson on definition of vacuum. Many of you have probably heard the term vacuum, and most likely you associate it with that tool you use to clean your house with. But today we're going to talk about a slightly different type of vacuum, at least the way it's defined originally in its Latin roots as meaning empty or void. We'll get a little bit more into what that means. Essentially, a vacuum, or a perfect vacuum, can be defined as having no particles at any state, whether solid, liquid, or gas. That's the true definition of vacuum. The only problem with that is it's really only possible in theory, since there's always some level of molecules floating around. It just determines on how many, how frequent those molecules are, or how infrequent when we refer to vacuum. It really has a lot to do with pressure, because another definition of vacuum is anytime the pressure falls below atmospheric pressure. You see, in the atmosphere we have pressure and on the molecules around us, sometimes more dense with higher pressure, and sometimes lower pressure or less dense. That refers to vacuum because remember, when we have atmospheric pressure, we have molecules bouncing around quite frequently, and when you create a vacuum, there are fewer molecules, and we use a term called mean free path because that basically defines the length it takes for the molecules to collide into each other. In order to create a vacuum, there's several ways. There's very low vacuum and up to very high vacuum. One of the low ways you create vacuum in everyday life is through a straw. But higher vacuum is achieved through a vacuum pump that creates the pressure below atmospheric pressure inside a closed vessel by removing gas molecules from a specific volume. So that's your simple definition of vacuum. Something that's void or empty, and in more practical terms, any time that the pressure falls under atmospheric pressure. That way you have fewer molecules colliding with each other, and you have what's called a vacuum.